Ladies and gentlemen, greetings from the city of Golden Friendship, Cagayan de Oro City, Region 10, Mindanao, Philippines. I am your keynote speaker today, and I am going to talk about thesis writing techniques for the new normal environment. But before I go any further, I would like to greet Dr. Evelyn Abellera Magno, the president of the Rizal Memorial Colleges, and of course, Dr. Pablo N. Busquit, the Dean of the Graduate School of RMC and the organizer of this event, along with Dr. Djuwari of STIE Perbanas, Surabaya, Indonesia, who is currently the international president of IASPER Incorporated. And also, my morning greetings go to the array of interesting international speakers for 2 days. Our deans who are tuning in today, professors, ladies and gentlemen, a happy 27th day of November. So I have divided my brief talk in three sets. The first one is about topics for the new normal, because I'm sure that many of you are looking for a suitable topic for a master's degree, the technologies of research that I will share to you so that your life becomes less burdensome because technology make it easier for you, and how to publish the research. So let's begin. Let's set ourselves in motion. What could be the research areas related to COVID-19 pandemic? Because if you want to do a thesis or a dissertation, necessarily it must be connected somehow to pandemic because of the situation we're in today. So you can do a study on the epidemiology of COVID-19 pandemic, focusing on the spread of the disease, or you can go into governmental management of COVID-19 pandemic, how the government entities handle this problem, the readiness of medical institutions to handle COVID-19 pandemic. How about the implementation of protocols by health frontliners that deserves a study? Anatomy of infection cases among health frontliners. So doctors, nurses who are on the front line, why are they easily getting sick when in fact they are supposed to be the ones who know how to safeguard themselves? Responsiveness of families in handling COVID-19 infected members. And then another set of topics, the use of social media in amplifying COVID-19 realities. The effect of COVID-19 on local businesses here in Davao City and elsewhere. The impact of lockdown on mental health, meaning a study about stress, about um, anxiety and depression. Readiness and technological challenges of education for online education in the new normal. Ethical dilemmas in handling COVID-19 individuals. The role of locally stranded individuals and returning OFWs in the spread of COVID-19. If you still need more, I have some more for you. Work life changes in the new normal, wherein we are now having work at home. Performance of the Philippines in the management of COVID-19 pandemic compared to other Southeast Asian countries. Issues on students' engagement during online classes. Are our students happy with the current setup? Effects of COVID-19 pandemic in the transportation sector. Consumer behavior trends under the new normal, wherein we get to be engaged in food panda and grab orders. That's one example. Effectiveness of webinars and webicons. Are people really learning from these? More. Issues in the management of learning achievement. Effects of the pandemic in the school enrollment. Other schools have already closed. Capability of parents as tutors of modular instructions. Violations of implementation of social amelioration program fund, because many families are complaining they never received the money intended for them, or they only got 4 kilos of rice for 7 months. income and expenditure patterns during the pandemic, issues on the use of military personnel in the enforcement of community quarantines, role of government units in the management and control of COVID-19 pandemic. All right. What are the best practices of local government units in the management and control of COVID-19 pandemic? The impact of COVID-19 pandemic in the human resource management in organizations. How about the problems affecting patient care during the pandemic, among others? And the management of grief of families, because you leave your home sick and then you come home as an ash. Social psychology of separation due to lockdown. All right. So those were the topics that you could possibly be engaged in when you do your study, either in education. There were topics about pedagogy there, management of schools. If you are taking up Master of Arts in Educational Management, there were topics on public administration or public management. If you are taking MBA or Master in Management, there were also topics there. And if you want to get a copy of my talk, you can just get it from our beloved Dean, Dr. Pablo Busquit. Okay. Now we will go now to the second part of my talk, which is on our technologies. So there are technologies of research that we can provide you. Okay. For instance, this technology called key text. Okay. Uh, what is key text as a technology? Okay, key text, Quetext, is a software that is cheaper to acquire because it only takes $10.99 per month, good for 200 pages, better than the more expensive, more than a million worth of Turnitin. So what is good about key text is that it gives you immediately a copy of the copy pasted material on the left side, and then uh, the source of the copy pasted material on the right side. Okay. And then it also gives you an estimate of how much is actually your copied material. So for example, can we have some samples here? All right. So if you are able to copy in full a segment or a paragraph, that is 100%. So on the right side of key text result, you will be able to see the one in red. Okay. That gives you that particular area which you are able to copy. Just like this one. No? Mindanao, the second biggest island of the Philippines. And on the right side, it is taken from Wikipedia. So you cannot actually deny because the source of the copied material is on the right side. Okay. Like this one, on the left side, there are two lines, and then on the right side, you have that in written in red. So what are you going to do if you have this kind of result? You are going to paraphrase and change the order of the words. You change the vocabulary. You write it in your own fashion so that KTeX will no longer detect it as copy pasted. Because copy pasting is an offense, which is a malpractice that is worse than um, plagiarism. Okay, so very easy to do. Before you submit your draft to your dean, to your advisor, or to an editorial office, you must have the key text result first. The second one that I am going to show you, okay, is this technology, TEMI software. Okay, what is this TEMI software? TEMI. All right. So I will show you a sample of where to get the TEMI. At the same time, I will do a short demo on how to use the TEMI. Okay. So here it is. This is the website where you can find the TEMI. Okay. So uh, when you do the interview nowadays via Zoom, the problem is that It takes a lot of time to transcribe the interview because it is spoken. It's a spoken dynamics. All right. It is a spoken dynamics. So you ask a question and you are given the answer. Now, the role of Demi is that after your interview, 3 minutes only, and you have this kind of result. What is this? This is the transcription. So Temi is a transcription software. So we will let you hear the conversation between the interviewer and the interviewee. And it is the software that detects how many people are talking. So speaker one is the interviewer, speaker two is the interviewee. Now, if there are four or more people, the software can detect. So the software will label that as speaker 3, speaker 4, and speaker 5. Just imagine that. And so you would no longer write by hand the transcript of the oral interview. So we will try to let you hear how it sounds.
The purpose of this interview is to gain an understanding from your perspective of your last career transition. With your consent, which I already asked, your interview will be digitally recorded. The interview should not take more than an hour of your time. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions, as in the interview. I hope to assist those individuals who are planning and in the process of career transition for them to be ready as effectively as possible. For the purpose of this study, we are defining career change as a transition to a new occupation that is not part of a career progression. Your information will be confidential, and we will keep your records private to the extent allowed by law. Only myself, as an interviewer, and my advisor, Dr. Hapos, will have access to the information that you provide. Information may also be shared for those who make sure the study is done correctly. I'll start with the first question, Dr. Ed. Bring me to the day you wanted to change your career. What happened in your organization that led you to think of leaving your job?
Okay, when I was working as a corporate planning engineer, or we can say industrial engineering consultant of Saudi Electricity Company, it came to a point that I
Okay,
don't have any
stop.
more
So
advancement.
I have just given you an illustration that the whole conversation was recorded in a digital text by the software. So meaning, if you have 1,000 hours of interview, you would no longer have any sweat trying to transcribe that. So from the digital text, that is not yet final because you're going to convert that into um, concepts and then themes by means of another software which is called in vivo. So from the digital text, you transfer that to the in vivo, and then you will be able to process the digital interview. So that is how fast it goes. Okay. The third one is called Grammarly. Okay. You should not be doing research without Grammarly. So let us show you uh, an example of Grammarly. Okay, this is the Grammarly is a super intelligent software that can detect about 300 types of errors of grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And so once you are able to upload your text in Grammarly, you will be given this kind of score. The international doctrine is that you should get at least 90% score for Grammarly and 10 to 15% for plagiarism. So here, the plagiarism score is only 2%, okay, coming from 7 sources. So this file appears to be safe. And then the score is 97%, so it passes. And you should be able to screenshot these test results, and then the actual test, the entire manuscript that has been tested with Grammarly, in which there are indications of the corrections, should be included in the file that you are going to send to your advisor or to your dean or to your editor for the journal, so that they would know that you have passed this prior to submission. Because if it will be the editors or the panelists who will be able to detect the errors in grammar, punctuation, and spelling, this will be a demerit to your work and you will be given lower scores. Okay. Now, after this, let me show you a very important website, which is called file sharing website, and it is called Library Genesis. So I will show you on screen how valuable is Library Genesis. For example, on the one in blue, okay, is for SciTech, intended for um, books. So suppose you want to get copies of books. So we will search for books. A qualitative research design. Okay, Creswell. And so when you search that, then you will be given all the works of Creswell. So we will see on screen. So here we have research design, quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. So that's the second one. We will just click the title here. This is a book. So, and then after that, then you click the cover and you will see on screen the word get in blue. And then you click that. And once you click, then it downloads and the book is yours. Okay, this is a file sharing platform. Okay, so we will no longer show you how the final one, but what I want you to do is not only books here, but you can also find other sources like articles. So you just click on the scientific article so that the blue um, in the circle will go to the right side. And so, for example, you want to do a study on mixed methods design. So example, sequential explanatory mixed methods design, and then COVID-19. So what are the COVID-19 articles that has this kind of method? So we will search, and I hope we will be able to find some. So on screen, you are able to see a mixed method sequential explanatory design comparison about COVID. Because when you search for articles, do not only search for content like COVID-19, you also need to search a balance of the particular methodology. So you will be able to find that. So to show you as an example, we just have to click LiveGen on the other side. Okay, LiveGen here. And then you will get, and then the whole thing proceeds, and then you get the full copy from there. Okay. That's just how to do it. Okay. Or we can also ask the computer, okay, COVID-19, all right, and then Philippines, so that you will be able to see what are the studies about COVID-19 in the Philippines. And then we search it. And so these are the studies in the Philippines about COVID-19. So one thing that you should remember in Library Genesis as a file sharing platform is that all of the contents, okay, newspapers, journals, books, are actually having a price, okay, if you're going to buy them in their particular websites. But this platform is able to file share for free to you. Okay. Now, the third part of my talk this morning has to do with how to write a publishable paper. So very shortly, I'd like to describe to you how to convert a thesis into a publishable paper using the Germanic method, which has 5 chapters. All right, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so here is the comparison. Okay, as you can see on screen here, a thesis contains preliminaries, the title page, approval sheet, acknowledgement, dedication. But when you publish that, you only have title, abstract, and keynote. No, keywords. You don't have the acknowledgement because it will be done down before the reference list. So the chapter one of your thesis contains the introduction, the usual theoretical framework, statement of the problem, hypothesis, scope, significance, definition of terms. But when you do the publication, it will just be the introduction, the framework, and the objectives, and then you're done. You have to eliminate the others. And then in the next chapter, RRL, review of related literature and studies, you are not going to include that here because that deserves to be another separate publication. Yes, your chapter 2 can be published either as a literature review, as a research review, or about systematic review or meta-analysis. And since most of you are located in Davao, you can have further trainings about how to do systematic review and meta-analysis by getting Dr. Reina Limhoko. He is an international expert in research who was previously the director of research of the University of the Immaculate Conception. He is our trainer. We get him to train the Asia Pacific researchers. And so the third chapter is the methodology. So these are the normal topics in a method chapter, from the design, environment, sampling, instrument, procedure, qualification of the variables, quantification, techniques. But in the methodology, there are two kinds when it is a non-experimental design. So you will have these parts, okay? So from a whole chapter, when you publish that, it is only about 2 paragraphs to 3, and then you're done with the methodology. So you need to synthesize this chapter to fit into a page or two of a publishable paper. Now, in the next chapter, chapter 4, presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data, it will now be called, under the IMRAD style, results and discussion, in which you have the introductory paragraph, the problems 1, 2, 3, 4, and the tables, the discussion, hypothesis testing. All right. So all of these will now be in the results and discussion. There are just a few pointers I'd like you to remember when you do this part. Okay. Now, it does not mean that because you have 10 problems and 5 hypotheses, you will load all of them in the publishable paper. The answer is no. You just choose a minimum of 1 objective or problem, or a maximum of 3, and then you load them in the results and discussion. And then of all your problems, you have to answer this question: which of these problems were able to generate very good results that the international community of scholars would be so excited to learn from me? Meaning, you do not have to present everything in your publishable paper. So the last chapter is about summary, conclusions, and recommendations. You have the introductory paragraph, summary, conclusion, recommendation, bibliography, appendices, curriculum vitae, but in the publishable paper, it's only conclusions, acknowledgements, and then literature cited. So from more than 20,000 or 50,000 words thesis, you will not just be writing between 3,000 to 5,000 words. Okay. Now, here is a doctrine in publishing that says that quality is inversely proportional to length. If you go to the most high impact journals in the world, in which the cost of publishing is between $1,500 to $3,000, you will only be required to write 6 pages to 10 pages. Meaning, if you have a study grant in the US for 1 million, when you publish that, it's only 6 pages to 10 pages. Okay. Now, next is, I'd like to give you, for the remaining few minutes, some inputs about how to publish a paper. So I'd like to give you anatomy of a publishable paper. All right. So here it is. The first slide says that your title should be a title by result. The most important result of your paper should be your title. Okay, next. Then when you do your introduction, your abstract, okay, you need to um, follow the instruction with these 200 words, and then you need to produce 5 sections of an abstract: the introduction to the topic, and then the major purpose, and then the a sentence or two on the methodology, and then 1 or 2 sentences on the results, and then 1 or 2 sentences on the conclusions, and then no more recommendations. And after that, you are going to produce your keywords, and the keywords need to have 4 components, which are as follows. You have to indicate what is the discipline of the study, whether it is public administration or education, and then the most important variables you are able to measure. And then thirdly, the methodology of the study, and then the geography, meaning what specific place in the Philippines, okay, did you conduct the study. Then after that, let's move on to the introduction. It is meant to provide context and background, but should not be a history lesson. The introduction should have four layers. One is that you need to produce what we call as the global context of the study, global perspective, the regional perspective, which is in Southeast Asia, and the local perspective, which is in the Philippines. What is the situation of this topic? What have been discovered already in your topic with respect to the world, then Southeast Asia, and then the Philippines? And the last part of the introduction, the fourth part is the gap in the literature. What has not been studied about this particular topic should be included, and the differentness of the study from other previous studies. Next slide. Now, the framework should only be one or two theories that are important. And then when you produce a theoretical framework, there are three layers there. One, you need to describe what the theory is all about. And then the second, you need to look at to present the limitations of the theory. And then the third one is what are the empirical evidences with respect to the literature that support this theory. If majority of the empirical studies about the theory pinpoint that the theory does not work, you should not be able to use that anymore. Okay, next slide. And then the objectives of the study, you create objectives that show what the researcher shall do with the data and not words to indicate what the researcher intends to do as a research process. So do not use as an objective to assess, to measure, to collect data. No. Rather, your objective should be to describe, to compare, to determine, to design, to plan. Those are then and to create a model. These are terms for the objectives of the study. After that, we go to the methodology. I have already described to you in brief how should the methodology be done. But the pointers I'd like to give in here is that the method of your study is not valid unless you have an author to support the steps in the methodology, because there are too many versions of the same method. And then if you are going to use inferential study in which you need scientific sampling design, you need to be given a certification from a statistician with an MS or PhD in statistics to really tell you that what you have done is correct, and that a statistician is able to supervise you in the methodology. Okay, next slide. Now, more. All right. In the results and discussion, uh, you have to answer the objectives of the study and then highlight the salient findings. There are three layers when you discuss the results. Okay, one is that you need to describe what the data in the table convey. Okay. Then second is you need to present what did the stakeholders say during your validation, okay, of your research results to interpret the data, because you cannot use what you know, because what you know has no bibliography. So you are not in a position to interpret in your own way, because that you can be biased. So you need that. And then the third is the dialoguing of what the literature is saying in support of your results. Okay. And then the most important part that I would like to bring in today is provide a critique on the methods and theories used in the last paragraph. Because when you finish your study, only then will you be able to find out that there were actually weaknesses in your methodology. Admit that already. Okay. So that the panel and editors would no longer puncture you, because you have already described what have been your difficulties and the limitations to frame their appreciation of your results. And then after that, we have the conclusions. Highlight new discovery, if any, that you obtained only after completing the study, something not found in the literature, which contributes to new knowledge. Now, what is the weakness of most conclusions is that if you are using a theoretical framework, there should be a statement in the conclusion whether the results support in full the application of your theory, or that your theory was only partially validated in your results. So that there is a match between your theory that is guiding you at the start, and what is your judgment on the applicability of the theory with respect to the study that you have conducted. That is very, very important. And then, the recommendations, most journals do not require you to produce a recommendation unless the recommendations fall in the following categories. One, you recommend only if your results have application to the international community. Okay. For example, you have a recommendation to the barangay captain of Argao, okay, or Agdao. So what has that to do if the study is read in Netherlands? So it doesn't anymore fit. And then the second recommendation is for further research. Okay. What are the new leads for another set of research that can be done from where you have started so that other people can do a replication of your research? And then after that, we have the acknowledgments. Limit only to funders of the research and those service agencies who help you, and actually the experts who assisted you. Because a study that doesn't have a panel of experts that looks at the other parts of the research is considered to be of poor quality assurance or colorum. Okay. So we have to make sure that your acknowledgments will only be for those who have direct contribution to the study. Do not acknowledge God, do not acknowledge your parents, okay? Do not acknowledge your exes and Ys because they are not included here. This is a scientific matter. Okay, next, we will show you the input for the literature cited. Prefer references that already earned citations, and references should be traceable online from peer-reviewed index journals of reputable databases. Because you see, the pillar or the foundation of quality research is the quality of your references. If you if the references are not of good value, and then all your claims in the research will be laid to waste. Okay, for example, when an editor looks at the bibliography of a particular study, he should be able to find research review articles, okay, coming from the web, because that is the standard operating procedure for a researcher, that before you embark on other studies similar to yours, you should be able to type in your topic like climate change plus research review, climate change plus meta-analysis, climate change plus systematic review, so that you will be able to integrate these review articles in your literature cited. Okay, so I think that would be all, and I wish you good luck. God bless you, because your 2 days will enrich your life as it has never ever happened to you. Thank you so much. And this is Dr. Jean Hapos saying mabuhay.